Welcome and enter as we join with Jason and find ourselves somehow managing to make our way through his mind of madness. I don't know why I did that particular entrance. Heck, everything's a bit of a mess in my life right now. By in my life, I mean just my last performance in a Heroclix tournament. So how do I start this off? Project failure has commenced, and abject recovery begins. By that I mean we went to Rock Canada Cup, and I don't know if you guys caught the Metal Lab this week, but things did not go well. They did not go well at all. The team we had was not a bad team, but more data was required on the team before we brought it in. So as a recap, those of you who might not have been watching the show, I have the team up here. Ignore HC Realms lacking in points on the Michelangelo. But we had the Fast Force TMNT 4 Leonardo. We had two of them. And then we had the Fast Force TMNT 4 Michelangelos, also two of those. Along with a Peace Machine, an Overdrive, a Boxing Ring, Professor X ID, and a Wolverine ID card. So that was the team. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, be it to teach myself a lesson or so that everybody can learn from my mistakes in this case, I went with it fairly untested. And by fairly, I mean completely. I didn't test a single game with this team. Otherwise, I probably would have made some most certainly important changes. So let's kind of recap what happened. The first round I had a bye. So I was already a game behind. If anybody was on the same level as me going into this tournament, they were a game ahead of me, having got a game in the first round. So having a first round bye, even though I'm up 150 points, that's negligible at its finest. It wasn't enough. So we go into round two. My first round opponent, as it were, I was up against Tom Kerr. Spoiler alert, he won the darn thing. And I made a mistake like right out of the gates. I didn't account for perplexes and his TKs and his ability to reach across the board. And he was able to ID call, use a Cyclops to tank my team, except for the Peace Machine. Already a frustrating start. And I saw it almost right after I said go ahead. I was like, oh no, he's got ID cards, and I didn't look at them. So that's a double whammy on my bad. And Tom was able to capitalize quite handedly, putting him at the better player as I am. But he proved that, of course, by winning the tournament, right? And subsequently placing higher than me. I mean, he could have been... Anyway, that's the point. The point is, from that, I knew I was unpracticed in this team. And I got a nice lesson in School of Hard Knocks in reacting with my team. Did not do the best job with that. So, hindsight's 2020. And already I'm regretting my team. So I'm down. Going to the second round, I'm up against Chris Stockhouse, great player, great friend of the channels. Provided us with this beautiful rubber stamp that you see me slap around on the Metal Lab on a regular basis because, the old joke was put a stamp on it. Chris Stockhouse has a question. It's an official episode. It's always been the gag with us because he was probably the most frequent contributor as far as questions were concerned on the Metal Lab. From there, he had the March of the Ents, as the team was called. And he won map because he had like a plus 10 to map roll, so it was impossible for me to actually win map roll against Chris. And as a result, I had to just kind of suffer whatever map he chose, and it was the rock water map. Rock elements are such a mind number on me. I'm not a fan of the idea of them, but I have to, if I'm going to play in a rock tournament, I have to be ready for them. It's one of those situations where it's like I can complain all I want, but if I'm not preparing myself, I'm not preparing myself. So In this water map, just he was able to heal a bunch of his floral colossals. His team was like the March of the Ents. He had Groots and floral colossals everywhere on the map. And I couldn't even start considering the idea of a win without attempting to kill his Mangog. Because this Turtles team suffers from a lot of the same, in hindsight, suffers from a lot of the same weaknesses that, say, the X-Men team suffers from, which is a Mangog to your team dies. Sorry, a Mangog to your team dies. I missed the word your team. Mangog won't immediately die against his team, not a chance. Now, one of my big chances to create an opening on the Mangog was to use the Professor X Brood X call-in. I was targeting 2 Groots and a, what's the word I'm looking for, and a Walking Wood. So that could have got me a couple of extra dudes on the board and 2 Groots and a Walking Wood gone. That would have put me in a sufficient lead. Instead, I was at a 5-point deficit because I managed to miss the 2 Flora Colossals and only hit the Walking Wood. And the subsequent character that was created just liquefied as well. You're going to hear this, I miss a lot. And ultimately the miss doesn't... The fact that I missed is not an, oh my god, I had bad luck. In this game, we have control of the luck to a certain degree. And that degree is the probability control. And I did not bring that with my team. Something I immediately regretted after missing that attack. And after missing just about... I think I maybe hit 2 Pogs the entire tournament with my Professor X. He did not perform well for me. And that's not a reflection on the Brood X. That's a reflection on my lack of preparedness. And let me tell you, I put some work into making that work at times too. Like I had Michelangelo's used a perplex clicks to get him up there, and it did not happen for me. Anyway, so Chris was able to just slowly make his way to me, and just the pressure he was able to put on was ridiculous. And again, I could not attack his team until Mangog was gone, and I could not get a beat on Mangog, and I just had to suffer for it. So, them's the breaks on that one. Going to this is now the 4th round, my 3rd game of the tournament. I'm up against Derek Rutan, player I've seen at quite a few local Canadian events. Very good player, and he was playing a Hawkeye and Hammer team. Basically, the idea was Hawkeye and Hammer did all of the damage, and everybody else made them amazing. He also had a Penguin on the team, so he was using with Penguin Lounge. Assuming he could get it. Funny thing about this is this entire game hedged on the fact that I was going to lose, and then he critically missed with his Hawkeye on the first shot, and then I won. And that was it. That was all there was to that game. That was the only factor in the game that caused me to win. Because also that and last round combined was just a major factor, because The Rock uses last round instead of last action. I think in last action, if it were to be because last round he gets to finish his turn, but then he went first, so I got to finish my turn. And because it's not last action, I think time was called just as his turn was about to end. And because I get a full round, I would get a chance to. I just cleaned up 100 points just immediately. And I feel like if we were using WizKids rules, I lost that game as well. So, and then the 4th round, I was up against Kyle Gilmore, a local player, and he just had a team that outclassed mine in every way, including the fact that I couldn't hit him. So, I think the only attacks I hit against his team were against the Groot and the Wonder Woman. Sorry, he had a Skyscraper. His team was Groot, Skyscraper, Wonder Woman, Unseen. Groot, Skyscraper, Wonder Woman, Unseen, Star Fox with Mjolnir, and a Lockjaw. I played in the 4 rounds I did play, and 50% of the teams I played against had a Lockjaw. So let's look back on this and say what were my problems. My problems were lack of preparedness, and that was all caused by a lack of practice. Because if I was to go back and relook at this team and relook at the games that I just played and readdress this team, we have a few problem elements on our team. So we're going to go to HC Realms just to take a quick look there. All right. So problem element number 1 was the boxing ring. it provided nothing except a place that I was afraid to go. The thing about the boxing ring, and this is my own hubris coming back to haunt me on this one. Also, if you guys are in the chat, feel free to just talk it up, or just if you're just kind of taking in my my bad luck here, I mean, just let's hear those voices out there. So the boxing ring became a place I just avoided. Now there's a number of reasons I avoided the boxing ring. One, my own hubris. Every time I try to increase my defense, I find I am wasting my bloody time. I have had 21 defenses crumble, just absolutely crumble to my opponent's dice. And that's when they have like 10 and 11 attack. Like my opponent get this reverse luck the second or this massive amount of luck burst. And I'm very gun shy about putting my money or my faith rather into increasing my defenses. So the boxing ring ended up becoming a thing I was afraid of. What's more is people were able to just reach across it most of the time. It's just it did not work for me. Plus, there's a lot of perplexities in there. I think the boxing ring has been perplexed out of the effectiveness that we used to have. In addition to which, like, if you can capitalize on the boxing ring, then they can get their colossals in there. They're going to capitalize with the colossals. It's a neither here nor there. So, in hindsight, if I was to change this up, I probably wouldn't go with a Wolverine ID card, to be brutally honest. Wolverine did better than Professor X, but I just don't think it would do enough. And I would end up playing like 3 students' IDs and the Professor X ID, and one of the student IDs would probably be Cyclops for sure. And the other 2 would probably be like Beast or another possible X character that can be called in. Hindsight's 2020. You can have all the hindsight in the world, and you still have to eat the fact that you abjectly failed. And this entire team and my performance in the tournament, I would like to call a full abject failure. Some people are more positive thinking than I am on this one, and they're just being too nice to me. Tom, I turned to Tom and said, I'm a bad player a couple times. Like, no, you're better than you think. And I'm like, no, Tom, I'm not. I really am not. I was very down on myself for this tournament, and I kind of want to turn that around somehow. Part of that may be just playing a team I've had a lot of work with, or the other part could be not changing into the last second and just kind of continuing on with my thought process, or just tweak and share that with you guys on this show, because we're going into WKO season. And WKO season doesn't start immediately. There's approximately, we're going to say, let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to say about 38 days, I'm going to say, until November 3rd. My math might be a little weird, but it might be a little off. But November 3rd being the next WKO, and I believe the November 3rd WKO, if I'm not mistaken, is the one at either 401 Games or 401 Games, or where we just were Comic Book Addiction. A wonderful venue, by the way. They just opened their new store, and the game space they have in this new store in comparison to what they used to have is massive. It's a massive game space compared to what they used to have. And I'm kind of proud of them for doing that. I mean, they've come a long way. They've been a store for a long time, and it's good to see a store be successful and be able to increase their real estate, as it were. So I'm going to open up the 3 local stores that we do these events with, so we know. Okay, so November 3rd is the sealed WKO. So we actually have a few extra days on top of that, so add another 7, so 44 days until the constructed WKO at 401 Games. And that will be, like I said, constructed, 300 points constructed. And then we look into the other venue, which is listed as running it, but they don't have their event listed yet. Okay, so we're looking to November 10th for our team. Now, what's going to happen between now and November 10th? Well, Secret World, or Battle World. Secret Wars Battle World, is it called?
Secret Wars Battle World.
Secret Wars : Battle World is going to come out. And I'm not sure how that set affects my thought process. Well, okay. It completely affects my thought process. I'm not kidding. I'm poo-pooing Spiderling right now, but at the same time, she does pose a threat to the monster team. I cannot deny that. She can be worked around, I believe, but I don't think it's as obvious as we'd like it to be. So, and the thing is, the monster team relies heavily on Colossal Retaliation. So, I could also look to the Cosmic version, the Cosmic build that exists out there, as an option as well. Not a first call, but a possible call, regardless. So, these are the thoughts that are going through my head right now. But I also have to look. I figure I'm not going to lock in my team necessarily until we have a good, solid idea of what I have access to from the set, and B, what the set is offering. It's nothing stands out right now as must play or crack the metagame, like crack the current game, which means anything I would come up with from the Battle World would probably be a unique idea starting from the Battle World or from another set and including the Battle World as a potential stratagem. But the thing is nothing also really calls me on that, with the exception of possibly the number of attacks you can pull off with the Thor Core. Because there's a lot of really cool figures and a lot of really cool effects that team seems to have. As well, it seems to also contain some really weird negatives. I gotta kind of weigh myself around those. But at the same time, the idea of the possibility of turning my opponent and saying, my Dinosaur attack sounds fun. And Jude Vincent in chat is angry that the BC Avengers are chases. I mean, not all the chases are BC Avengers. That helps you. It probably doesn't. I have considered some ideas with the Black Panther, to be honest, but I don't think he is an answer for anything in particular, if that makes any kind of a matter. And the Namor looked cool, but off the top, I'm not seeing anything super great that I want to build just yet. I do have to specify, like, I'm in the just yet. I could be very wrong and end up turning around and being like, oh, here's my idea. But what I do have to account for is a lack of trust in Colossal Retaliation right now because of the idea of Spiderling. Now, the other thing about Spiderling, there's a fear and a non-fear with the character, and that is, I don't think the character adds enough to be justified on a lot of teams. But she does not. This does not mean she should be ignored in any way, shape, or form. So, let me pull her up so that we all know we're talking on the same page. Open image tab. So, I'm gonna pull her up, and we're all gonna take a look at her together. All right. So, let's do that, and then we do that, and then here we are. All right. So meet Spiderling. Battle World, Regency, Shield, and Spider-Man family keywords. In addition to which, so her keywords already mean if she has a place in the metagame, it's on a non-theme team. Okay, making her but she is a strong countermeasure to what's going on here. Take down the giant robot is her trait that bothers me, or it scares me. And it's whenever a friendly character within range is damaged by a character that's using Colossal Retaliation, after resolutions, the attacker is dealt 1 penetrating damage. And unfortunately, we lack any invincible Colossal Retaliators, really. Right?
As far as I know.
Amber's like, I guess. So there isn't a Colossal Retaliator that says, okay, Spiderling, whatever, and just kind of does her thing. The other thing, too, is that her damage does open up to the next turn's Colossal Retaliation. And if it's like a Surtur, Yeah, I don't know. Could end up with her dead anyway. She is a wild card, which means she's apt for that usage. But I mean, now that Mystics is no longer wild cardable, that is really just flexibility for certain numbers of things. Outside of that, she's got once per turn. She's got precognitive spider sense. Once per turn, you may re-roll the super senses roll of a friendly character within range with the Spider-Man family keyword. So she makes Spider-Man family better, which is it is a possible keyword. She could be the piece that makes the Spider Chase team possible, because there's I think it's the Spider-Man is the manga Spider-Man or whatever. Is really good. Like, he's got a really cool forward movement, and if he can get a hit off, awesome. You can possibly bring another Spider-Verse character to him, which could lead to another attack, and there's a lot of potential there, and she could be that thing that adds to it and makes it viable and not worry about things like Colossal Retaliation. So there's that possibility. She has a 4 range, and she has to keep the friendly character within the range for that Colossal Retaliation killer. So this is one of those situations you run into. Is she doesn't necessarily make Colossal Retaliation unviable. That is a falsehood. That's not what that is. But she causes pause for consideration. And that, of course, means I see this character across the board when I'm playing my monster theme team, and I have to pause for consideration. Now, I also have to remember that my monster theme team runs the 100-point Carnage. So instead of what I usually do with that team, which is lead with my other Colossal Retaliators, and then Carnage comes for the cleanup, I might actually lead with Carnage instead against this character, because I take that one damage is kind of negligible on him, and he could also eventually just turn around and use his flurry attack on her. So, like, when I actually put the thought into dealing with this particular character with my current iteration of my monster team, I feel a little safer because Carnage. This is the best way to put it. Because Carnage, I feel like I'm fine. In addition to which, like, one solid hit with a Walking Wood, and she is done for. She has to super sense past that, and she can re-roll once, so she does have that option. I'm going to be flurrying. It's either here nor there. It could end up either way ultimately. My pause for consideration with my current build that I have been running kind of gets alleviated because of the use of Carnage. Spiderling could cause, though, just that enough hesitation in teams to maybe either consider using her, or one guy use her and then everybody's justified in not bringing Colossals. That's ultimately how that works. So, all right. So, I'm in a state of recovery, as it were, from the Rock Canada Cup, and that's why I kind of want to lean on a team that's been successful. But at the same time, I have to think: do I need to make any modifications to it? So, what I think we'll do, I think today we'll talk about that team in detail, and look at we're gonna look with my thought process. And that's not to say anybody else's thought process is bad or not worthy or not interesting or not good. I just want to look at where my head is at in regards to the team after seeing what I saw at the Rock Canada Cup. Also, a couple extra things I did note is people are able to get their ID columns off the board again, which causes the sweats. The pit stains are back because of that. That's another thing with the Colossal Retaliation team. Like, a team full of as much Colossal Retaliation as I bring with Dr. Frank with this team. Surtur in this form, and then Groot in this form. All right. So this is what we're looking at here. Carnage, Goblin King, Dr. Frank, Tiger, Frankenstein. Sort of Groot. So what are my problems here? My problems are this: people are able to get their call-ins off the board again. Problem one. And the reason that this is a problem is that I was prior to the thought process getting them off the board again returned. I was able to just murder ID card call-ins. So, but now if people are able to get the call-ins off the board, my Walking Woods no longer so good at the whole eating the shots in the face thing. Still capable of bringing to 0-0 ties, which come to roll-offs. I think I've had one roll-off in a tournament game and won it, and I had no business winning that game in the first place. Rate of play, kids. Be attentive of how quickly you're playing, because if you have a lead but you haven't killed anything yet, you are still doing just as good as your opponent. As my opponent unfortunately had to learn in that game. He had such a command of the game and he killed nothing. And because nothing died, I was like, all right, well, I guess we roll off because this makes no sense. And yeah, so that happened. That has happened. Sorry. Phone vibrated on the desk, and I don't know if you heard that in the microphone. So what do? Do I leave this behind? Maybe not yet. I don't think we're there yet. Because I think there's still the possibility of getting a good read on a board and forcing my opponent forward far enough. At the same time, it might be time for me to step away from this and start playing more to what people are playing. Because what's doing well when my monster team isn't, the only team that seems to be competitive thinking, is that there's these well focused, close together teams that do a lot of things. We're in the balanced team meta again. And what balanced team is it brings a lot of not a lot, but quite a few things that manage a lot of problems. So what a tentpole team or one-man army team is, it puts a lot of its eggs into one big basket, being this big character. And if this big character is gone, the team doesn't function quite as nicely as you want it to. A balanced team will have like 3 to 4, maybe 5 characters, all of them still adding to the collective of the team. And generally adding strength to it. And if we look at Tom's winning team, along with PJ's second place team, along with there's no singular, oh my gosh, all my bags are in this basket section on their teams. It's even silly. PJ's team did so much. Like, I just watched one game with it, and it was doing so much. I was kind of caught off guard with how much it was doing. And this is one of those things when you have a well-balanced, well put together team where can get a lot of options, you can afford occasional losses and still be fully functional. A swarm team will have numbers. It's like the three focuses of build size in Heroclix. These are not the three necessarily the three answers or the only 3 builds you can possibly make in Heroclix. These are the 3 builds, not necessarily what your builds do, but the build sizes as they were. And the swarm team there's always that team. It's like, I'm going to give up a ton of points, but I'm going to get enough. And it's a win by attrition. So looking back between Canada Cup and the way I'm currently playing, it might be time for me to get back to the drawing board, start practicing more games, start getting some more ideas flowing, and maybe not be leaning on what I have been for the past little while. Because it's worth noting, the monster team is still just a very similar version of what I played at Rock Cup last year, and very similar to what I played at the Rock Cup the year before-ish. Yeah. I mean, the year before last year, I didn't have as many Colossal Retaliators because I think there was only a few that existed, and they were in the form of ID cards. Nowadays, I've gone on the extreme of the Colossal Retaliation, and it might be time for me to kind of step away from that, get a little bit more going towards the balance end of team building, and maybe take more consideration around what a team does as a whole, as opposed to fully focusing down one avenue. I have been guilty of the one avenue focus right now, and it's time for me to rethink. So, I mean, and this is kind of a down episode today because I'm down. I did not have a good showing at Rock Canada Cup. It was not reflective of how I think I can do at this game. It was reflective of everything I warned people about, and I failed to heed my own good advice. My own good advice being practice will make your team better. And I failed to practice, and my team was not made better by that lack of practice. So I have to I got my tail tucked. I'm curling in the corner. I'm wounded, as it were. But I have to look forward and move my way back up. Now, personally, I'm not going to be going into Rock World Cup. That is not a reflection on how I did at the Rock Canada Cup. That is a reflection on availability and time that I have. I don't have the time. I'm not going to be able to make it. There's a lot of demand for me at work, a lot of demand for all of us at work. And as a result, we can't really be gallivanting around to Alabama on a whim or just, for something like this. There's a lot of financial issues we're having at home that we need to kind of get over the hurdle of. So we kind of limited it to WizKids Worlds, and because Philadelphia is not a terribly expensive trip, it's drivable. So we also have people driving, and we're going to be sharing gas and etc. with them, and a sizable Airbnb while we're down there. So we're kind of excited to get in on that and make our way for that event. So we have that event ahead. We also have the two WKOs coming up as well. Sealed, there's not much planning for Sealed. There is some, and there's the thought process you can follow for Sealed, which I can spend a little bit of time going over. It's not a big deal. And today I don't want to spend too much time building anything new, coming up with anything new. I kind of want to just spend a day of this show to recover and just consider what we go through when we recover, right? First step is we don't want to get ourselves down. And a good Sealed tournament is always a good way to get yourself back in the game. It's a reminder that you might be better than you think. After the WizKids Canadian Nationals, I went to two WKOs, one sealed, one constructed, similar to what's going on here. In the sealed one, I got second place, and in the constructed one, I won, which it got my morale back up, of course. But the sealed one, I think I felt better about because it was here's 2 packs, build what you can out of that, and see how you do. And I was, sealed is you're kind of reminded about your skills in that, and it also was a reflection of how much sealed I played that weekend with all the drafts that they had. They had Batman the Animated Series draft, so I was very familiar with all the figures in the set coming into, and I also played in the. Did I play in the release sealed?
You did the Friday night one.
Yeah. Yes, I played in release, or that was a pre-release, though, wasn't it?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, it was pre-release. So I played in pre-release sealed. I don't think I played release day sealed for this set, but in the general case of it, I played my butt off in those and was able to recover from my Canadian Nationals downs. And I tend to take, tournaments pretty seriously. Like, I wouldn't say it ruins my life if I don't win, etc. I would say I get down on myself when I don't fare particularly well. That's an honest assessment of myself. Hey 8 man. Hey man 8. Yeah, I don't get down on myself for too long, but I do kind of. Sorry. All right. Here's the better way to put it. I'm down. I'm not feeling good about how I played that tournament. I'm recovering from that mentally, and I'm just getting back on the horse, and that's kind of the trick. Is you get kicked down, you kind of go, okay, that happened. Let's get back in the game, and that's what I want to do is get back in the game. And part of that is going to be tying Amber to the kitchen table during some weekends and making her play against my teams. You know what? Ultimately, for myself, I don't feel the need to play against the competitive teams too much. I can play against most other teams, and they don't even have to be great, and get an idea of what my team will do in a lot of situations. In fact, I'd almost prefer, in some cases, not to play with necessarily what's out there. This is a personal preference. I do not suggest this. I suggest playing against the actual teams. But, this is what I have available because Amber won't play the rest of the competitive teams. She's too stubborn for that. But what'll happen is I'll just play the team. And that's one of the tricks is I just need that time rolling the dice, seeing how the team works, seeing what the team needs, and reacting to those things as best I can. And it doesn't necessarily always take the competitive meta to do it, but that's a personal thought process. I personally still suggest if you have the chance. If I had the chance, trust me, I'd be running the gauntlet every bloody week, every bloody time I got a chance. But that time just doesn't seem to exist for us right now. We're trying to get that time. We'll see. Yeah. So reinventing the headspace is where the state of the mad mind is. Reinventing myself as a Heroclix player is always what you have to do when you come off of some bad beats. And this isn't like a, oh darn, I went 3-2, nutsy boy. This was a beatdown. I played 4 games, won 1, and I won because of a critical miss. This was. I did not play it well. I did not play what I thought would be what my team did not end up being the way I thought it would end up. And all of this was reflective of just some poor decision making. So reinvent yourself, reinvent the wheel. Not necessarily completely reinvent the wheel, but reinvent your own wheel and kind of get back on that high horse. I think I've babbled enough about everything right now. I'm reversing the order of things because usually I start the show talking about my non-Heroclix stuff, and I just realized I went right into Heroclix because of the bad experience I had as a player, and all caused by myself, not caused by anything to do with the event. It was all this is all the kind of stuff that a competitive player will generally go through, and I'm not angry at the state of the metagame. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. That bad idea. I am not angry at the players I played against. I'm not angry at the teams I played against. I'm not angry at WizKids. I'm not angry at anything else. I'm disappointed in myself and how I thought about things, because even though I didn't go into this with the plan to win, I did not go into this with the plan to get absolutely stepped on by everything I saw, and that was the end result. And it's just more of a it's something I just got to recover from. I think I've said I got to recover from this about 18 times in this whole thing, and Amber is not watching me on this or not yelling at me like she should be from over there, or throwing dank dirty socks at me like she should be. I don't know. I feel like she should be putting me in my place and saying, shut up and just build your teams already.
You seem like you need to talk. I am letting you talk this out.
I think everybody needs to tell me to shut up and stop talking. Anyway, that's my therapy session, as it were. My other therapy session, of course, being on the exercise bike and playing some Final Fantasy 3/6, depending on where you're from, has been an interesting ride. The story is actually starting to improve and starting to kind of show its form. I'm still not at that point where it's like, oh my god, this is the greatest Final Fantasy story ever. But, Final Fantasy stories 9 times out of 10 don't make a lot of sense because they write 20 hours worth of story. I'm 8 hours into the game, and I think I'm starting to find out the plot.
Is the plot in here somewhere?
That's a Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy 7 was like that too. It's like, I think by hour 10, you realize that the plot that you thought the story was telling you was actually the wrong plot, and they totally just turned it around on you. So that's my Final Fantasy experience. The weekend, I did my usual silly thing of playing Street Fighter on the weekend. That's always embarrassing. I also did it while watching some of the Capcom tournaments that were going on. So it was interesting to get my butt kicked while watching other people who would definitely kick my butt do that. So that was an interesting choice of things to do for part of my weekend. I'm playing a fair bit of Pokemon Go on the walk or on the go because, well, I'm trying to lose a little bit of shed a few pounds here and there. So that's the back end of the front end of the show pushed into the back end. And Amber giggity in the background. I don't know if you heard that, but she completely derailed me on that one. Thanks, Amber. Appreciate that one. Completely. I love that. Whenever I ask her for input, she gives me a stupid face. When I don't want the input, she throws a giggity in there right in the middle of something I'm saying and just completely ruins everything. All right. But getting back on track, as far as WKO planning is concerned, I don't want to go the route. I don't think I need to go to the route of a Mjolnir type team. That's I don't think we're there yet. And I don't think I'm ready for copycatting on Tom's team. Tom had a good team. Tom had a good idea, but that's Tom's team. I don't want to copy it. I also don't want to do that thing I do where it's like I'm going to make Tom's team, but I'm going to make it my way, which is what I did with my version of a Devil Dinosaur team with Ultrons. Look, at the time I felt the need to get Nick Fury. Hello, Mr. Graves. But if anybody has any questions or anything they want me to address as we're kind of going through, would love to see it in the chat. If you're watching live in the archives, we had the conversation already, guys. But I'd love to hear any of your thoughts going into the next episode. Again, apologize for being just a Debbie Downer today, but sometimes you just need to get it all off of your chest, and my chest was weighing pretty hard with my performance in this tournament. So, excuse me. I should have muted my mic for that. That was disgusting. Oh, boy. All right. I think I'm going to start wrapping it up because unless anybody in the chat has a question, it's really just a state of I've decompressed. I've shared my story of the failure of the Ninja Turtles as piloted by me. I do believe there is a better team or a better player for that team out there. It could just be a reflection of how I handle that particular type of team that was poor for the team. So I think that played a factor as well. There's a number of factors that I just feel didn't really work out for me, and I need to step back and come up with some new stuff that's a little bit more my size, as it were. It's a thing a friend of mine would be a little bit more privy to. Amber knows what I'm talking about. Amber's one of my friends. She's my best friend. Hey, all right, here we go. Happy Heroclix. You're going to say something to the effect of like 20 or what's the number? 60 suited henchmen? Because I need to hear that right now. 60 suited henchmen. Oh, hella. Yeah. Yeah. Hella and 20. We're down to 20 suited henchmen. Okay. 20. But I think you're 150 points short. 50 points. There was quite a bit of Trouble Alert being used. In fact, I saw PJ with a better build Trouble Alert than I've come up with, because I think he had 2 firestorms, 2 or 3 firestorms. That's a good call. I brought Trouble Alert and didn't end up using him because I think at most I made a single attack each game. Sorry, 2 attacks. Each game. It's just the team did not do what I thought it was going to do. That's the God's honest truth. To be reflective a little bit on the TMNT 4 Fast Force characters, they played like a less effective version of the X-Men builds that include Lila Cheney. Like the Lila Cheney X-Men bubble, as that were. I think that's more effective and very similar in ways to the Ninja Turtles team, but significantly more effective, if that makes any matter of sense to anybody. But yeah, Trouble Alert was used, and Trouble Alert was used more intelligently. People are getting better with the thought process behind it, and they're bringing it, but they're also not forcing it, if that makes any kind of a matter to you. That's always been my case since the Superman incident. The Superman incident being, I brought in a Superman, that Superman died, and I was down 40 points in that game, and then 65 points after that Superman died. It was not a good situation to be in. I did end up winning that game, but it was just like, I may have made a terrible error here.
It's like Emily throwing the tank.
Was that?
Emily had a game where she threw the tank because her opponent was like, oh, I've never seen the tank thrown before. She's like, all right, I'll throw the tank. And then she's like, oh, I'm down 50 points. That was a bad thing to do.
Yes, a lack of perplex, move and attack, and range were big factors in the TMNT team not doing particularly well. I said at the beginning of the show, I probably would have fared better if I had like a Cyclops student ID to call in off of. It also didn't help that every single one of my Brood X attacks missed. They just missed. They flat out didn't hit. It'd almost be worth it to go with 3 of the Ninja Turtles and possibly do something else. I don't know. Long story short, the team did not do what I thought it would do, and other teams that do similar things just do it better. Is how I felt after I was done with the team. So that was a lot of the factor in it. Going back to Aaron Young's question, yeah, Troubler is being used. People bring it. It's the matter of using it is is dependent. PJ had a very effective strategy of using Starfights to miss all of their attacks because their attack value is terrible, and because they basically miss attacks, but they're also autonomous. They call in. They're very easy to use to call in Super Friends. So yeah, that was a couple updates. I do like the idea behind the Hela and 20 suited henchmen. That I have 6 suited henchmen, 7. 7 suited henchmen. And I don't know. I feel like your idea is neat, but I want to generate to them. I want to, whatever I turn into Warrior Souls, I don't want it to have started on my team, because I feel like I lose points when I do that, if that makes any matter of sense. I feel like I'm gaining points if I made the thing that turns into the suited henchman. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing anybody I see at Worlds, because our planning state is there. Financial state needs some work, but I have a couple Heroclix lying around that I can sell, a few magic cards that can probably get some money up, and just general things. Like, there's things around that we usually do around Worlds time to just kind of get the extra money, sell some old chases, some new chases, some extra chases, ID cards and stuff like that we don't necessarily need to have on hand at all times. We also are sitting on a couple of I think it's our travel money from our honeymoon we still have.
Yeah, I think
some of.
that's what that is.
Yeah. So ever since we went on our honeymoon to New Orleans, we've had some American dollars that have slowly been depleting, but never fully depleted, if that makes any matter of sense. There's also that whole thing, like when we go down, we eat on the credit card, pay it back when we get back home, because that's how you get your best exchange rate on something like that. We bring extra cash where we get our bad exchange rates to buy other goods and stuff, like board games and stuff. Odds are we're probably going to grab a couple board games. We're going to be at PAX Unplugged, and that's the kind of thing you do when you're there. I believe we were said to be there till the 2nd of December was our exit time. So, I might need to book some extra time. No, wait, 2nd of December, not 2nd of... Yeah, okay, so we'll be fine on that. Anyway, yeah, we're going to be down. It's very shotgunny, the way that Worlds is being run for Heroclix this year. But it only feels that way because there's no U.S. nationals in the middle of it. And that's why it feels like a blam, done sort of situation. It's one tournament, right? You get 2 chances to qualify, one of which is in the Team Worlds, where you got to get in the top 16, where the top 48 players in Team Worlds, because, 3 times 16 is 48, will qualify. So that's 48 players already out of the way. Then you have the single qualifier, which is 300 points constructed, top half of that, in. So I think it's going to be a good old time. It's going to be a very quick time, and hopefully it's run well. Because And that's the other thing. The top 16 for Team Worlds is going to be running at the same time as the other qualifier, which is why it feels that way. Because once you're in the top 16, you don't have to fight for it anymore. You're there, and you're just fighting for that Team World prize, and you can get there. As far as singles is concerned, you just kind of do it, do the thing, go, right? So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that, but I'm not. It's not my current thought process. I'm pretty sure after Battle World is out, that's when I'm going whole hog into my Worlds planning. In fact, I'm going to try to come up with a team for Worlds that will will function with the Battle World set having been released by then. Fingers crossed that it does work. And that's so. This is kind of a wind down, like I said, wind down episode. Kind of cool off from Rock Canada Cup and poor showing. And then starting next week, more focused on getting some new builds out, some new considerations, some new things to test for the WKOs come November. We may or may not have some figures with which to work. That will all depend on certain things and certain friends of the channel getting things sent to us without saying too many words. We will not have the new Star Trek for Worlds. The new Star Trek is mid-2019 now. So like I said, Battle World is the last set that will be out in time for Worlds. The last set to think about. It's also going to be the Team Worlds consideration, which is why I kind of wanted to present the idea to Amber of us maybe looking at 6 boosters all at once and saying this is what we might consider for a Team Worlds build. Because I think that would be a neat exercise for our fans. Because we do the sealed. Like, Scott Porter has been doing his awesome unboxings, which are great. I love his work. Dude, when he throws a comic and Heroclix knowledge at you, that's when you know this guy is into the stuff. Like, he talked about Arch Nemesis bases, man. Arch Enemy bases. How many of you people actually remember Arch Enemy bases? Or were playing when Arch Enemy bases were a thing, screwing up the point system in the game? I remember watching a guy yell at somebody else, like, how could you let Wolverine kill Sabretooth? You know how much you just cost me in this tournament? Because he lost a game. Because there was that situation where you have two 2-0s in a 3-round Swiss-only local tournament. Two 2-0s and a third 2-0. And the third 2-0 is, of course, below points. So if one of these guys wipes the other guy, you generally win. But this guy here killed an arch enemy base, which you scored double points for at the time. When you included the fact that he lost nothing, got full survival points, and the double points on the Sabretooth at the time, and this guy only got the normal points, the Sabretooth put him over the other guy, and he got really upset about that. I thought it was really funny. But anyway, that's a long way of saying Scott Porter knows what arch enemy bases are. He's also been dropping some comic knowledge because he's definitely a big fan of the Battle World set. So his unboxings that are on WizKid's channel are a really interesting watch. He's also been getting a lot better about sharing the dial and cards on the thing. So if you're quick with the pause button, you get a good look at them, you get a good understanding. We were just at day 3 of his unboxing today, and it was pretty fabulous stuff. I did like the idea that the Maestro is uncommon. It's nice to finally not have the Maestro be a chase or a super rare in a set. But of course, this is the Battle World Hulk's leader of Maestros. So, but yeah, to go back on what you were saying, Happy or Heroclix, Star Trek will not be a thing at Worlds. Battle World will be a thing at Worlds. So. Keep that in your mind when you're thinking about your Worlds thoughts, because we're missing the full set list of a set, and that could bear some kind of factor on your decision making for your singles builds. I know it'll have a factor in mine. Also, I believe it's the weekend of October 16th. Keep your eyes on the Rock World Cup, because nope, it's not the weekend of the 16th. It's like the 13th and the 14th. So just a couple weekends from now. So this weekend is the 29th and 30th of September. Next weekend is the 6th and 7th, which is Canadian Thanksgiving. And then the weekend after that is Rock World Cup. And the Rock World Cup will not feature Battle World, but it will feature, if anything we haven't seen yet, will be featured in that tournament as a possible contender or a possible team that could use modifications from Battle World. So do keep your eyes on that. And they are live streaming it. I'm not sure where they do. As far as the handing out of bricks, when I was there last year for Team Worlds, they were just taking chunks out of the bricks, right, Amber?
I think so.
Yeah, so like 6 would come out of a brick, and then 4, and then 2 more from the next one, and then 6 would come out of that brick, and so on and so forth. Like that, just to speed up the process, they kind of sliced them, went, gone, done, everything like that. And then while we're waiting for all the teams to receive their packs, everybody started building wild towers of Heroclix, like with 6 packs and using physics to do some stuff. So they are coming. Like if you have just grab 6 chunk from a brick, you get kind of an idea of what you'll be getting in your rock or your Team Worlds clump. I know myself, Tom, and Mike are a possible team, though we may have another alternate spot should that come up. I should actually get our alternate on deck just in case, or warn him that we may need him. He knows who he is. I don't know if he watches the show, but he knows who he is. Yeah. All right. I think I've rambled on enough. I got a little bit more excited towards the end of the show because a little bit of chat help came there. So yeah, I think what we'll do, like I just said, if we do get what we usually get from WizKids, we will open up 6 packs together as a team sealed, and then do 2 other sealed, because that gives you like the whole package. Team Worlds is up ahead, 6 packs, build them, see what 3 teams we could possibly idealize out of that. Now we're only going to use 2 heads, though we might find a third. Who knows? I don't plan on a celebrity. Jeez Louise, calm down. We just might have a third person. Nolan, you missed most of the show because I'm kind of wrapping up here. And then me and Amber will also take the other 4 packs and build 2 sealed pools out of those. And then for the patrons, we'll do what we usually do and swap them and work that way. So, long story short, that's today's episode. I ended on a high note, talking about the future. We started on a low note, me talking about the past. And just, the state of recovery is a hard one. You got to have a strong mental game to get back on your toes and get ready for the next thing. And getting ready for the next thing is always hard. So I'm going to do that hard work. A couple things about the channel. This week will not be the first week, but next week looks like it will be the first week of 7-day content, as I give Amber a thumbs up and she's giving me back a thumbs up. Yeah, she is. Okay. So next week will be the first week, actual full week of 7-day content. So looking forward to that. Tomorrow will be the first episode of the Everyman for Everyone. Tomorrow I will start with the document, which is honestly the actual official document isn't much to write. This is the build restriction. I'll throw a couple of frequently asked questions. I'll open up to the chat to see if they have any other questions in regards to the thing, but for the most part, it's a very simple thing, because I wanted to keep the restrictions simple so as to keep the field wide was my goal. I've heard mixed signals about, and that's a good thing, but that's why I think they should stay. I've heard mixed signals about, we shouldn't have the fast forces of being allowed, and that's why I think they should be allowed. Because anyway, this is a conversation we're going to have tomorrow, where episode 1 of the Everyman for Everyone will be the proposal of the Everyman format in its fullest. And then we'll start talking about another build for the Everyman format, and go from there. So this is kind of why I'm giving it a name now, because a lot of people go Popper or this or that. I think it's time to give it a name, give it a comic booky name, and just kind of this is the format called this, and kind of unify it to a certain degree and have an actual document. I'm going to have a link to the document put in the description of that episode, so we're kind of ahead. So tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m., Everyman for Everyone. I will be here talking about our proposal for the Everyman project. And, I'll do it with my bald head because Lex Luthor did the Everyman thing. And I think that's cool. So, that said, as always, I want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/Heroclix that encourage us to do this as we do. Check us out. Every evaluation will get you access to our patron Discord, where we chit-chat with our patrons occasionally and just discuss Heroclix or just general stuff. You also get access to our patron hangout, which we're actually going to be filming on October 14th, because, as I've said a couple times, myself and Amber have tickets to wrestling on October 7th, so we're going to go with our daughter to that, and so we won't be available to do the patron hangout then, so we're going to do that on the 14th. This is also the weekend of Canadian Thanksgiving, so hey, food, something I haven't done any planning for yet. So Canadian Thanksgiving, that. Also, we've got to thank our other lovely sponsors at MajesticCCG.com. If you want to read my embarrassment, not necessarily my result embarrassment, but rather the embarrassing fact that I thought this team would work, I do, on the Apex Insiders portion of the site, I do have an article on my initial thought process on how the team would work. And then soon enough, we should have another more fun article on their site there. So I got to actually check with Patrick to see what's up with that. And then I'm going to be writing some more stuff, I'm sure, for them soon enough. But MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders, $3 a month. Great brain dumps from some great brains in the game. Take a chance to watch it or read or check out what they have. Even on the free site, MajesticCCG.com, there's occasional tidbits of information that you can get from there, and are worth the occasional read. So keep your eyes on that. And when tournament results come in, they're also there as well. So thank you guys for watching live. Thank you guys for watching in the archive. See you guys in the next episode of Into the Mind of Madness, where hopefully I'm in a slightly better mood about everything. I will be in a better mood about everything, and I think we'll have a chance to really come up with some new ideas.